Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. My name is Sudhir Sasanaman and you're watching CBSE with Sudhir. Let's start Unit 3 of Class 8 English Poorvi textbook. This is called Mystery and Magic. The first story is a rather fascinating story about a Class 8 student, mind you, a Class 8 student, but in the USA, who is also some kind of an interesting and intelligent detective. So that's what this particular story is about. It's called The Case of the Fifth Word. I don't know if any one of you is interested in reading mystery novels, suspense thrillers. Like when I was a child of your age, I used to read Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys quite a lot. And then, of course, I kind of graduated to reading more intricate thrillers like Perry Mason, etc. Right? Now, what is the case of the fifth word? Now, there are some anagrams. Now, this is always very difficult. In fact, my wife is very good at it, of jumbled up words, if you are able to figure out what exactly is the right word. Now, this particular crossword is actually a little complicated. It took me a little while to actually get the crossword sorted out. So I'm going to provide you with the answers in case they ask you it at school. Now, an anagram, for those of you who may not be familiar, is a word or phrase that is made by rearranging the letters in a different order to make a new word or phrase. For example, neat, like a net. If you write a word like a net, and if you are asked to kind of make it into the right word, the correct word would be neat. You are able to change it into a word which actually makes a lot of sense. Now, the first one, like we have been given the clues out here. Across is declare. So 3 across is what we need to see. So we will need to look at what would be the anagram of declare. So the anagram of declare, and of course, most of these words relate to this particular story, would be clear. Okay, the same words, but written differently to create a different word. Okay, so 3 across. Then 6 across is tux. 6 across is this one. So this one, tux, what would be the right one? So the correct word out here is stuck. Then let's look at the seventh one, heart. Can you guess what is the seventh one for heart? The seventh one for heart is earth. Okay, it's always a good idea to, when you do something across, to do the downward so that it becomes a little easier. For example, let's look at one down. The one down is aces. Now here, this is a case of, solving a case. So this would become C-A-S-E. Okay, then the second down is read. So what would be the second one for read? It would be D-E-A-R, that is dear. Now let's come back to across. The ninth one is felt. Where is 9? Felt. Felt. The anagram can be left. Okay, left. Now let's do fourth down so that this one gets solved. The fourth down is tool. So fourth down would be loot, right? The fourth down will be loot. Then let's look at fifth down. The fifth down is Alps. So Alps can be PALS. So now we have got this one. So let's do 12 across. 12 across is sword. Sword can be words. Are you getting the thing? You are changing a particular word, rearranging the alphabets to create another relevant word. Okay. So now let's look at 6 down. 6 down is hooks. So this can be SHOOK, shook. So now let's look at 10 across. 10 across is sown. So this will be OWNS, owns. He owns a car. So now let's look at 11 down. 11 down is loves. So what would be? So this can be SOLVE, solve, right? Then let's look at 13 across. 13 across is evil. So which is kind of starting with L. So it will be LIVE. And then finally, eighth down is main. This is pretty simple. This would be NAME. Okay, Mazaya. It can be a lot of fun if you get a hang of it. Okay, then you have to work in pairs in order to kind of match the following. So case here means different things in the 4 sentences. So Lalit said that he could not sing, but that was not the case as he sang melodiously later, right? So this one, so here it would be 4. The lawyer was waiting for the case to be taken up in court. So what would be the case in this particular, sorry, was not the situation. This is the first one. It says was looking for the thing. So this would be second. My pencil case is a gift from my grandmother. Here it is talking about container. The subject of a formal letter is written in the title case. This is the writing format. Okay, I'm sorry about the first one. Now let's read this particular story. Now you're seeing this illustration, which gives you an idea that we are talking about a family where the person is in uniform. So he's obviously a policeman, his wife, and their son. Encyclopedia Brown is a young boy who lives in Idaville, USA. His father is the chief of police. Now, this Idaville is not a real town. It is a fictional town created by the author. So if you are looking for this place, you will not find it in the map of the USA. His father is the chief of police. So he's the police chief of that particular town. In spite of being so young, he often helps his father solve mysteries that even the police find difficult to solve. So the boy, that is Encyclopedia Brown, is able to solve different cases and help his police chief father. Their discussions are generally held at the dining table. Read the story to find out how the boy wonder solves a case that has been troubling his father. Now, this boy wonder is a phrase that you can definitely use in your answers. Okay, so because he's really a boy wonder because he's able to solve the cases. Encyclopedia's father was chief of police of Idaville town in USA. Everyone thought that he must be the smartest police chief in the entire country. And why is that? Why did everyone think you would be asked this kind of a question? Because Chief Brown was seen to be very smart. He did not sit around and worry. And when he came against a case that he could not solve, he acted at once. He cleared his desk, put on his hat, and went home to dinner. And his son, Encyclopedia Brown, would solve the case for him before the dinner was over, right? So that is why he got a reputation. He earned a reputation of being extremely smart, the smartest police chief in the entire United States of America. Okay, so this can come as a question from the first paragraph itself, that why was he considered the smartest police chief? Chief Brown would have ideally liked to tell everyone about his only child, his son, Encyclopedia Brown, that he's so smart. But then who would believe him? And therefore he did not tell. Who would believe that the best detective alive was actually an 8th grader, a class 8 student like all of you? He was a student of class 8 and he was an extremely smart and good detective. So the police chief did not tell anyone because he thought no one is actually going to believe him. Encyclopedia never spoke of the help he gave his father. So even the son did not tell anyone about the kind of help he would provide his police chief father. He did not want to seem different from the other boys. So the reason, that's another question that can be asked. I'm going to keep telling you the questions that can be asked. One question is about the reason why the father does not want to tell. The reason why the son does not want to tell either, because he does not want to appear different from the other boys. But there was nothing he could do about his nickname. He was stuck with it. So it means that Encyclopedia was not a name given to him by his parents. That is something that he was called. That was his nickname, a pet name. Okay. And he was stuck with it. Only his parents and teachers at school called him by his real name, which was Leroy. So his name was Leroy Brown, but he was called Encyclopedia for a specific reason. Everyone else called him Encyclopedia. Why Encyclopedia? You need to know. This can be another question. An encyclopedia is a book, and I'm sure many of you would be having it, the Britannia set of encyclopedia. It's a book or a set of books filled with facts from A to Z around the world. It could be about biology, physics, geography, astronomy, anything, literature, anything. It could be about that. All the facts are put in this set of books arranged from A to Z in alphabetical order. Encyclopedia, that is Leroy Brown's head was seen to be like that of an encyclopedia because he would be filled with facts. He would know so many things. And that's because he read many books, which unfortunately children of this age don't seem to do anymore. He read more books than anyone in EWA, and he never forgot a fact. So his head, his brain was stuffed with a lot of information. His pals as in his friends, said he was like a library that is full of books. This person also seems to have that kind of information and computer rolled into one. So he is a library plus computer in one. It's a two in one and more user friendly. User friendly because book means you have to search for the right book. Computer means you need to search for the file. But you ask Leroy Brown something, he'll be immediately able to tell you. So he is actually more user friendly. This can be another question that can be asked. Okay. At the dinner table on Tuesday night, Chief Brown stared at his cream of mushroom soup. So he was having soup. Soup is the starters. So they have not come to the main course or the dessert. They're starting with dessert, which is the cream of mushroom soup. Encyclopedia and his mother knew what that meant. He had a mystery he could not solve. So when he was kind of lost in his own thoughts, it meant that the police chief had a case that he was finding difficult to solve and he was kind of thinking about it. Tim Nolan died yesterday. He announced in a matter-of-fact manner. In fact, only a couple of days back, I finished watching 6 seasons of The Rookie, which is on the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD. Brilliant web series on Netflix, in which the main character's name is also Nolan, but he's John Nolan. Okay. So Tim Nolan died yesterday. He announced in a matter-of-fact manner. Matter-of-fact manner means without having any emotion. He died yesterday. Normally, when you talk about someone's death, you say it with a bit of sympathy, a bit of emotion. But he said it in a very unemotional kind of a tone. That name is familiar, Mrs. Brown said. Wasn't he mixed up in a jewelry robbery a few years ago? So she says, Tim Nolan. Oh, the name is familiar. Wasn't he the same guy who was involved in a robbery at a jewelry store a few years ago? 5 years ago, Chief Brown replied. So he's being more precise because he knows the facts of the case. Mrs. Brown obviously is just relying on her memory. 2 masked men held up the Diamond Mart on 6th Avenue. Held up means they looted, they robbed. Okay, they robbed the Diamond Mart on 6th Avenue. 6th Avenue is like, 6th Street or road number 6 kind of a thing. They got away with $1 million worth of jewelry and they managed to loot jewelry worth $1 million. Okay, so extremely expensive jewelry they managed to take away. I thought Tim Nolan was arrested. Now, Mrs. Brown is once again relying on her memory. But Chief Brown has the facts. He has studied the facts, so he knows the facts in a more, confident manner. He says, no, he was not arrested. He was only questioned. Means he was interrogated by the police, but he was not taken into custody. He corrected his wife. I always believed that Nolan and a friend named Daniel Davenport pulled the holdups. There wasn't any proof though. So there is more information that is forthcoming that the hold-up means that, a robbery which is conducted using the threat of violence. You have a gun or a knife or any sharp weapon and you say that, if you don't give me this, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to injure you, right? So that is what is called a hold-up, right? That Tim Nolan and his friend called Daniel Davenport, they were the 2 guys who carried out this robbery, but there was no evidence to implicate them. There was no evidence to arrest them. Encyclopedia sat quietly. He knew his mother and father were discussing the case for his benefit. So the discussion between the parents was actually taking place so that Leroy Brown could listen to the details and solve the case for his father. So all these details were actually being said aloud for the benefit of the son. His father filled in the facts. Nolan and Davenport had met, Chief Brown said, while both were in prison in South Carolina. So they were both in jail in a place called South Carolina. They became friendly inside prison because of shared interest, because both of them were essentially of a criminal bent of mind. Both of them had criminal tendencies, right? Nolan was let out first. He was released first. He settled in Idaveli, okay, and started a small palm tree nursery. Nursery is where you would have nurseries in your neighborhood where you get plants and flowering plants, etc. You would get and you can buy it from there, okay. It barely yielded him a living, but obviously you can't make too much of money. So it was, it didn't get him too much of money. After he was released, Davenport came to live with Nolan a week before the jewelry store holdup. And a week after he came was when the jewelry store was robbed. Okay, so Davenport came. So the police chief is adding 2 plus 2 in order to kind of decide that these two may have had a role to play in the robbery at the diamond store. During the holdup, during the robbery, one gunman's mask slipped and a clerk thought she recognized Tim Nolan, but she wasn't absolutely sure. So while the robbery is taking place, one mask of one of the robbers slipped, and one of the clerks thought that that person was Tim Nolan, but she was not sure, and therefore he could not be arrested. I remember now, Mrs. Brown says, yes. I remember now. The clerk refused to testify against him. Testify means give a statement in court to say that, yes, he's the person. I recognize him. He's the robber who was there at the diamond store that day. And no trace of the stolen jewelry ever turned up. The jewelry which was stolen could not be recovered, could not be found. So that way the police, hit a dead end. The case could not be solved. No one was arrested, nor was the jewelry recovered. Davenport hasn't been seen since the holdup, but since that particular loot 5 years ago, Davenport has been missing. He has not been found. Okay, my hunch means doubt. I have a strong feeling. I feel, right, that he and Nolan decided to hide the loot, the stolen diamonds, until things cool down. Until the police decides that this case cannot be solved. Let's close the case or let's forget about it. Till then, both of them will just lie low, move in another direction so that they don't arouse any suspicion. Didn't you search Nolan's house, dear? Right? Didn't you search Tim Nolan's house? I got a court order this morning after the news came that he has died. Chief Brown said officers Louis and Maloney just about took Nolan's house apart. Took Nolan's house apart means they kind of, removed every portion to search threadbare, search in great detail for what they are looking for. That is the jewelry or any clue that could lead to the jewelry. They did not find one piece of the stolen jewelry. So they completely broke open the house, opened every cupboard, opened the walls, everything, false ceiling, everything. But they could not find even one piece of the stolen jewelry, which means that the stolen jewelry was probably not there at Nolan's house. Is there some mystery about Nolan's death yesterday, Mrs. Brown? I mean, has he died under suspicious circumstances in the sense that did someone kill him, or did he commit suicide, or did he die by suicide? Was the death unnatural? Chief Brown says yes and no. And why does he say yes and no? This can be another question. Nolan suffered from a bad heart for many years. So he did have a medical problem, a medical ailment, a heart ailment. Yesterday morning, he had a stroke. He suffered a heart stroke, which means that, your heart kind of struggles to beat. And then that means you're having a heart stroke. Your blood vessels, which pump blood to the heart, they are not working efficiently, as a result of which the heart suffers a stroke. He must have realized he was dying. With his last strength, he managed to put his will on the kitchen table. So the mystery is because yes and no, because yes, because he did have a stroke. So it's a natural death. But why is there a mystery is because even when he was dying, he did something, scribbled something, which is like a will on the kitchen table. And that leaves everything that he owned, including his nursery, to Davenport, who Chief Brown suspects was the person who carried out the diamond store robbery along with Tim Nolan, right? So that's why yes and no. So this is definitely a question that can be asked to you in the examination. Okay, with this we come to the end of part 1. This is all recall questions that you can do. Let's move quickly to part 2. So this is how he has written. He has torn a part of the calendar, the desk calendar, and that he has put out here, and there he has written something, and the letter specifies that everything that I have, I'm leaving it to Davenport after I am dead. Mrs. Brown says, what is suspicious about that? nothing about the will itself, that there is nothing suspicious about this will, that he has left everything to Davenport. There is nothing suspicious. But this sheet from the calendar that has been taken and what is scribbled on it, that is suspicious, because it was clipped to this sheet which has been torn from the calendar is clipped to the will, that he has, stapled it along to the will. He took out his pocket notebook and leafed through the pages. I copied what Nolan wrote on the sheet. Here it is. He handed the notebook to Mrs. Brown, but more than his wife, he wants his son to listen to it and solve the case. She read what he had copied. It has Davenport's name and address and a few words I don't understand, she says. She handed the notebook to Encyclopedia to the son. What do you make of the 4 words Leroy? Now, in your answers, it would be better that you use Leroy Brown, but you do mention that his name was Encyclopedia. That was his nickname. Encyclopedia read the 4 words below Davenport's name and address. And Encyclopedia, don't go wrong with the spelling. You will lose marks otherwise. Norm Utes Sweden Hertz. Okay, that's it. So Mrs. Brown looked at him hopefully. Usually he needed to ask only one question to solve a case before dessert. And they are still on the soup. Soup, main course, dessert. He just asked one question. And before they finished their meal, he would solve the case. That good a detective Leroy Brown was. They were still on the soup, which means they still had time, or maybe he would do it much faster. Encyclopedia leaned back and closed his eyes when he did his hardest thinking. So he closes his eyes and thinks about what has been written. After several seconds, he opened his eyes and asked his question. Is there a young fir tree in Mr. Nolan's palm tree nursery? Whether there is this kind of a tree. Chief Brown thought for a moment because he had gone, right? Or he had been told by his 2 officers. Yes, there is one on the south side of the house. How did you know? He says the 4 words say so. They do? How? See for yourself, Encyclopedia urged. Chief Brown looked at the 4 words again. Normutter Sweden Hertz. He shook his head and passed the notebook to Mrs. Brown. Can you figure it out? I can't make out. Why is he saying that, the 4 words are saying that there is a fir tree in the nursery? Norm is a shortening. Now, the lady understands a bit of English language and grammar. So she says, norm is a shortening of nominative, which is a grammatical term, because she had taught English and other subjects in high school. Nominative is like the, the use of the noun and pronoun. For example, let's say the dog barks. Okay, so the dog is a nominative of this particular verb. Utes are an American Indian tribe. Sweden is a country in Europe. We know that. Hertz is Hertz. But how does it tell us about a fir tree in the nursery? Even Mrs. Brown is unable to understand. She lifted her gaze to Encyclopedia. Means she looked up and looked at Encyclopedia and shook her head. I can't figure it out. She confessed. Means she admitted that I'm not able to figure it out. Davenport disappeared right after the holdup. Encyclopedia reminded her, right? That Davenport, immediately after the robbery, he disappeared. As Dad said, Davenport and Nolan must have hidden the stolen jewelry. Probably not a week or so ago, Nolan changed the hiding place. That they had hidden the stolen jewelry at a particular place, but he had changed the hiding place and put it at some other place. And in this particular very cryptic is a good word that you should use in your answers. Means something which is full of mystery. CRYPTIC. Cryptic means something which is not very clear. You think that he tried to tell Davenport by phone and failed to reach him? Mrs. Brown asked. So he wrote the 4 words as he was dying, that he may not have been able to contact Davenport. So he wrote the 4 words so that it acts as a clue to Davenport that he can come and locate his jewelry which has been hidden. Chief Brown nodded. We will find Davenport now that we know his address. He will learn that he has been left the palm tree nursery, Mrs. Brown said, and the 4 words will tell him where the jewelry is hidden. Right, Encyclopedia said. That part is right? The code is simple. The code means the hidden message in those 4 words is very simple, especially as it is written from a sheet of the calendar. Now, that's the biggest clue that Encyclopedia or Leroy Brown has been able to find out, that this is the reason. I mean, this is where the hiding place is, right? And because it has been taken off the calendar, he will be able to locate it. Davenport will understand it easily. Still, it would not make much sense to someone who is not looking for a hiding place. So if you don't know about the case, you will not be able to do so, but Davenport will be able to locate the hiding place based on the will which has been written on a piece of the calendar. Very important. Leroy, Mrs. Brown, what do the 4 words mean? You already guessed, Mom. They tell where the jewelry is hidden. Mrs. Brown wrote, ready to explode with it. Oh God, where? Encyclopedia smiled. Under the 5th word. What was the 5th word? There is no 5th word. There are only 4 words. To tell Davenport where he had hidden the stolen jewelry, Nolan wrote a 4-word code. As the key to the code, he wrote the 4 words on a sheet from a desk calendar, right? What does a calendar have? It has days, it has dates, right? Understood? So what Encyclopedia or Leroy has seen is this fact that the 4 words stood for the days of the week, right? Because they are words, if it was number 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 kind of thing, then he could have said that it probably refers to some date. That's where the clue is. But since they are words, he thinks that they are referring to days. Nolan dropped the word letters D-A-Y. So he wrote D-A-Y. Okay. And then he took the first letter. The first letter is Nom. He does an anagram of it and he realizes it is Monday. Great. The second letter, he puts a day again and he looks at this word and then he makes an anagram of it. I mean, he unjumbles the word and it becomes Tuesday, U-T-E-S. The third one is Sweden. So Sweden, again, you correct it. It will become, rearrange it. It become Wednesday, right? It's not Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Okay. Pronunciation. Hertz, again, it will be this one and Thursday. Okay. The unwritten 5th word is Friday, and Friday would mean you could write the anagram of F-R-I would be F-I-R-D-A-Y, and that's why he asked whether there was a fir tree in the nursery. When he said yes, in the southern side, that's where the hiding place of the stolen jewelry is. The jewelry was found inside a 20-gallon jug of earth from which grew the young fir tree in Nolan's nursery, just as Encyclopedia had foreseen. Foreseen means what he had guessed, what he had predicted, right? So with this, we come to the end of this delightful story by Donald J. Sobol. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have understood it. I hope you have also understood the kind of questions that can be asked to you in the examination from this particular story. One question that can definitely be asked in addition to what all I have said is how did he solve the case? And that would be a slightly longish answer. And you would need to explain the entire process the way I have explained it out here by saying D-A-Y and then you put Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. Okay. Thank you very much. Tata. Bye-bye. I will now meet you in chapter 2 of Unit 3.